The USS Enterprise has served as the Federation's flagship ship for 9 iterations, each with a distinct layout and set of features. Since its debut in Star Trek the Original Series, the Enterprise has played a significant role in space exploration and has a long and illustrious history in the Star Trek series. What do we know about the evolution of starship design in Star Trek? The USS Enterprise, the iconic spacecraft of Star Trek, has been built in 9 different iterations. Even though the Enterprise has undergone numerous modifications since it made its debut in Star Trek the Original Series, it remains one of the most iconic ships in science fiction history and is home to some of the most thrilling adventures in the long history of the Star Trek series. No matter the era it flew in, the Enterprise has always remained the Federation's flagship, despite its distinctive saucer and nacelles appearance that it has mostly maintained throughout the years. The specifications of each major refit have seen the Enterprise expand and alter. Before Captain Kirk and his crew embarked on their first 5-year assignment, the Enterprise had already served as a veteran of the Federation fleet when it made its debut in Star Trek the Original Series. The Enterprise is integral to Starfleet's history, and every episode makes it very evident that she is the highest-ranking member of the organization. Let's understand more about the evolution of the starship. Number 1 is Pre-Federation Enterprises. A painting of the USS Enterprise XCV-330, which was seen in Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, Episode 24, First Flight, showed that it was a probe-like craft with a long tube body that was encircled by gigantic orbiting rings. Star Trek Enterprise was filmed on board the Enterprise NX-01, which was launched in 2150 and was commanded by Jonathan Archer until 2161. In comparison to later Enterprise iterations, the NX-01's hull featured a huge saucer section that tapered off into 2 nacelles that were in line with the saucer, giving the shape a sleeker profile. The NX-01 was the first Earth starship to exceed Warp 5, which came in useful during the establishment of the United Federation of Planets and was the pinnacle of its period, helping Captain Archer make critical initial encounters during his tenure. Number 2 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701. The Enterprise NX-01 was abandoned upon the United Federation of Planets formation due to its glaring technological inferiority against the Vulcans. Therefore, until the Constitution class of starships was established and the USS Enterprise NCC 1701 was launched in 2245, the Enterprise name remained dormant. Commander Christopher Pike was the ship's number 1 under Captain Robert April, who assumed command of the Enterprise initially. 5 years later, Pike took over as captain of the Enterprise, serving as its commander for nearly 15 years. Number 3 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701 in Star Trek III. The 2 5-year deployments that Kirk undertook between 2265 and 2280 are legendary inside Starfleet. The season finale of Star Trek Odd New Worlds established that the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire would have fought a bloody war if Captain James T. Kirk hadn't been there. Kirk's Enterprise, 20 years after the starship was first launched, displayed no symptoms of aging over its 2 5-year deployments, engaging in combat with Klingons and Romulans, as well as several odd stellar occurrences. The Enterprise NCC 1701 was significantly bigger than its predecessor, the NX-01, and had huge nacelles and a saucer portion as well as a secondary hull that sat below the saucer for a less aerodynamic design. Over the course of its existence, the Enterprise had a number of refits that improved both its exterior and interior design. This was evident during the events of the first Star Trek film. Number 4 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701A. After the Enterprise NCC 1701 was completely destroyed in Star Trek The Search for Spock, Kirk was demoted back to captaincy and handed a brand new USS Enterprise in 2286, which was commissioned as NCC 1701A. The Enterprise A was plagued by technical issues, as demonstrated by the events of Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. It was nearly identical in appearance and technical specs as its predecessor. During its 7-year service life, the ship was only commanded by Kirk, and it was retired following Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Kirk's Enterprise A was disclosed as one of the displays of the Athen Prime Fleet Museum during the 3rd season of Star Trek Picard. Number 5 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701B. In Star Trek The Search for Spock, it was revealed that the Constitution class of starships had become extinct. While the NCC 1701 and 1701A were the pinnacle of the line during their existence. In Star Trek Generations, John Harriman led the USS Enterprise NCC 1701B when it was launched in 2293 as part of the new Excelsior class. For a more streamlined appearance, the neck connecting the 2 hulls was removed and the saucer section of the ship was flattened. The remainder of the NCC 1701B's history was preserved in non-canonical tales following Captain Kirk's alleged death during her maiden voyage. However, her remarkable 36-year service tenure nearly equaled the duration of the original NCC 1701. Number 6 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701C. The NCC 1701C is one of the most significant iterations of the ship, even though it was only seen in yesterday's Enterprise, an episode of Season 3 of Star Trek The Next Generation. While protecting the Klingon station Narendra 3 from a Romulan attack in 2344, the NCC 1701C was destroyed. The NCC 1701C was an Ambassador-class ship with a longer neck that replaced the sleek design of the NCC 1701B. It also had a tubular secondary hull that was evocative of its forerunners. The ship's role in helping the Federation form an alliance with the Klingons is crucial, despite the fact that not much is known about it. Number 7 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701D. With each new redesign, the Enterprise gained size, and the USS Enterprise 1701D, which dwarfed the well-known and iconic NCC 1701 model, joined Starfleet as the biggest ship to bear the name ever. The Enterprise D, the most renowned starship from Starfleet's remarkable Galaxy class, was put into service in 2363 and served as the backdrop for the events of Star Trek The Next Generation. During its 8 years in deep space, the Enterprise D was solely commanded by Patrick Stewart's character, Jean-Luc Picard. Thanks to the ship's advanced technology, she was able to establish herself as a TNG character, and was a formidable force in the galaxy thanks to her considerable armament. The Enterprise's detachable saucer part was shaped like an oval, in sharp contrast to the preceding ship's circular designs. The secondary hull also lost its tubular construction in favor of a broader, flattened appearance. Even though she was ultimately destroyed during the events of Star Trek Generations, she experienced more significant events during her brief decade-long career than many of the prior Enterprises combined. Number 8 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701E. Despite the fact that earlier starship classes persisted for several generations, new classes were introduced every few years due to post-TNG advancements. In 2372, Captain Jean-Luc Picard took command of the Sovereign-class Enterprise NCC 1701E, which was commissioned to replace the Enterprise D after Star Trek Generations. The Enterprise E, sent back in time to battle the Borg in the events of Star Trek First Contact, reduced the bottom hull and aligned the nacelles with the saucer to create a slender body that complemented the post-TNG Star Trek's warlike tone. The Dominion War was mostly avoided by Picard's Enterprise E in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. The captain expressed his annoyance at this in Star Trek Insurrection. But when the Enterprise faced the Sona, the people that make the Ketracel white that the Jem'Hadar were controlled with during Insurrection, they did find themselves on the periphery of the battle. Leading a rescue fleet to help with Romulus's evacuation during the supernova disaster, Picard departed the Enterprise E. Captain Worf took over as Picard's successor, but nothing is known about his tenure. Worf's Enterprise E accident, which reportedly left the spacecraft entirely wrecked, is all that is known. Number 9 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701F. Launched in 2386, the Odyssey-class USS Enterprise NCC 1701F was scheduled for an early decommissioning in 2401 as part of Starfleet's Frontier Day festivities. Beyond the fact that the starship was led by multiple captains over its 15-year service, little much is known about it. Admiral Elizabeth Shelby led the starship on its farewell ceremonial voyage before she was tragically killed by the Borg. Following the conclusion of Star Trek Picard Season 3, it's likely that the Enterprise F is currently being housed at the Fleet Museum. Picard and the crew of the repaired Enterprise D destroyed the Borg signal, severing the connection to the assimilated Starfleet. Number 10 is USS Enterprise NCC 1701G. Star Trek Picard completed the cycle by elevating the Enterprise back to Constitution class classification. After a thorough refurbishment, the Constitution 3 class USS Enterprise NCC 1701G launched in 2402. Out of honor for Picard and the crew's valiant acts during the Borg and Changeling invasion during Picard Season 3, the refit converted the USS Titan A into the Enterprise G. The son of renowned Enterprise Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Ensign Jack Crusher, serves alongside Captain 7 of 9, who leads the Enterprise G. What are your thoughts on the evolution of starship design in Star Trek? Do you think there's more to it than is seen or heard? Do share your opinions on this in the comment section. For more interesting stories and updates, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon for notifications.